So this is me. Welcome to the chapter. Matt is going to be talking in a little bit about his demystifying user research. Was that clickbait enough for you guys? Did that do it for you to join into this, or did you get peer pressured by your supervisor, your manager, to say, "Hey, you're going to attend this meeting or this event today"? That's a rhetorical question. I really don't want to know. I'm just glad that you're here. So thank you again. We will be allowing ASPG, our event sponsor, to do a pitch, and then they're going to be giving away, I believe it's a $50 giveaway. So stay tuned for that. We will be respectful of your time, and that we will be ending at 3:30. So if they are going long, I apologize up front to them if they're on the call already, but I will cut you off. So next up, this is us. So your local chapter board. I'm fairly new to the whole board idea. I think a lot of folks think that folks that are on a board are independently wealthy and they don't have a regular job. I will tell you today that that is not true. I am not independently wealthy. I do have 6 kids. And so I look for every opportunity for me to have my money go a little bit further. And really, to become a member of the local chapter, it does just that, because you connect with people like Matt, like Beth, Jessica's on the call as well from Robert Half. You make these connections that you might not realize that you need today, but you may need them sometime in the future. And the best time to build a network isn't when you're out of a job. It is now. So you can lean on that network when you get into a tough situation, or when you get into a situation where you want to have feedback on a vendor that you're going to start to use, let's say Salesforce, for example, to say, how did you guys do that? You have that network to be able to lean on. So about me, like I said, I'm all about making my dollars go further. And here's a real tangible thing that you can take away from this, is that you may or may not be in Minnesota. If you are a Minnesota sports fan, I know that you get disappointed a lot. So this isn't to talk about the Vikings or the Minnesota Wild, but a team that not as often talked about is the Timberwolves. If you download the Timberwolves app, because they made 12 or more 3-point shots last night against the Lakers, and they beat the Lakers, by the way, you get a free Arby's roast beef and cheddar sandwich. All you got to do is show your app to them at the Arby's drive-thru, you get a sandwich. So boom, mark that out to be like, this is the best event that I've done in a long time. I got a free sandwich. So there you have it. Here's the ways that you guys can get a hold of us and communicate with us. One thing I'd like, Beth, if you could post the link to the LinkedIn group for the HDI Minnesota chapter, go ahead, if you haven't already, hit us up, ask us to connect and become a member of that group. That's just one way that you can connect up with this group of folks. You can always email, I don't know. It's like a 50-50 there. So to become a member, like I said before, and I really don't want to beat a dead horse here, the value is there. I can tell you for sure, out of the 15 years or at least 14 years that I've been a member, it is definitely worth the money. Just in the fact that if you wanted to go to the national conference, you can use, let's see, the next thing I think is there's a code. There it is, the LCO Minnesota, or MN. You can use that code to get money off of your national conference trip, and that essentially pays for the local chapter membership. So it's a no-brainer. Go ahead and do it. I won't hold it against you. If you have any questions, post them in the chat. We'll do our best to get those questions answered. There's a portion of the membership where you can post a job opportunity that you may have for your organization. One of the things, and I believe I have this on one of my screens, we'll see, is Great River Energy. We have a job opening, at least 5 of them, I think. So go ahead and check out our greatriverenergy.com/careers. You can find the variety of opportunities there, and share them. Likewise, if you're an organization and you want to highlight one of those, or if you want to now, look, I'll open it up. Anybody, unmute yourself and say, hey, this is so-and-so from whatever company. Here's a position that we're looking to hire for.
I'm looking for a job.
Okay, that's also valuable. Okay, so is it Kathy? Go ahead and post in the chat your contact information. And if you haven't already, go ahead to that LinkedIn group, request to be a member, and then you can kind of put out what it is that you're looking for there.
I will, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gina.
This is the national event that HDI proper does. It's a lot of fun. I haven't been for a little while, honestly. We'll see if I get there this year. It is, I've never been to Vegas. Anybody? Is it a good time in Vegas if you don't like to gamble?
Yes.
Again, this goes back to the 6 children thing, you know, making my dollar go further, getting a free Arby's roast beef and cheddar sandwich. Okay, we could talk later about that. But the national one, go to thinkhdI.com, I believe is their site that you could hit up and register for that. Remember the HDIMN code to use when you sign up, pays for itself. We do have an outdoor summer event scheduled. Maybe I shouldn't say scheduled, planned. We're looking to do some communication on that. Just so you guys know, Thursday, July 21st in Bloomington is the event. It's going to be outdoors. Hopefully that will all go off without a problem. I knocked on my table. It's fake wood, but it counts. Just today. Lastly, Matthew, thank you. I know you're on the board and you didn't really have to talk today, but you did and you want to because you're passionate about these things. One of the things I forgot to mention was we're going to be communicating too about a couple of the board positions that are going to be coming up for replacement, maybe is a good word, but the folks that are in it, Donald Chu, and is it Tina for programs? So these folks that are in these positions, one for membership and one for programs, they've been doing it and they're glad to keep doing it. They just want to make sure that if someone else would like to step into a board position and get more involved, the opportunity is there. So if you're interested in one of those things, reach out to one of us or post in the chat and we'll get you connected. But I'll turn it over to Matt because my time has expired. Matt's going to be talking about the demystifying user research. Just so you know, Matt has over 20 years of experience in service management and in customer service, from the service desk to business process consulting and into service design. He served in a variety of roles. Known for challenging industry norms, political advice, and unique approaches to service management, Matt is now a product specialist for InvGate. I've been training myself as to how to say the name of his company. So Matt, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And thank you to the board members. It's difficult to find extra time to dedicate to a community, even though we all see the value, but there's a lot of things going on in everyone's lives. So I appreciate all the effort that you all put forth, putting these events together, planning our summer event, getting people here, all the stuff that happens behind the scenes. So thank you. And thank you all for taking the time to join today. This topic is one of my passions, and getting the time to think about it and talk and learn about this subject is something that I truly enjoy. So before we get started, there's a link up at the top. I'm not sure. I don't think that QR code actually goes to the right link, but the one at the top should work. If you want to ask questions, or feel free to just unmute yourself because there's enough of us here that we could field questions. Otherwise, save them for the end. We'll have some time to talk then too. The slides will be available. There's a QR code that is correct at the end for you to download. And like I said, ask questions, throw me some curveballs because I really do like this topic and I always want to improve my survey and research tactics. So like Justin said, I've been in IT, service management, and customer service for over 20 years. The space where I learned the most about surveys and user research is when I stepped out of ITSM, the traditional consulting role, and I started working as a designer, an experienced designer, which put an emphasis on design methods for service management, where we basically would do service design, service transition, and service operations based on human-centered research. So I've taken that experience that I had over the last few years and extracted it and adapted it to IT support functions. So let's get started. So I've got a story about John Sullivan. He was a senior VP of sales at a medical device company. John tried to push me, a service desk agent at the time, past the limits of what I could do. He literally tried to get our service desk agents to do things that they were told explicitly not to do. The clearest example I remember was getting his personal iPhone. Yes, the original iPhone. Yes, I'm that old, to work with corporate email. This actually moved on and eventually evolved to him wanting support for personal laptops, air cards, hotspots, back when the wireless explosion was happening. It got so bad that one day I found myself in my manager's office with John, and he ended up apologizing. And this was shocking to me because here's this senior VP of sales apologizing to a service desk agent. You see, he had been pushing us because his sales team wasn't making quota. They weren't actually able to connect and respond and work from the clinics and surgery centers that they spent all day in. So my manager, in her infinite wisdom, one of the best mentors I've ever had, she took this opportunity to partner with John. And what happened was he apologized, of course, we got through it. But then going forward, John was really seen as a conduit between IT service and sales. And sales was our primary revenue stream in medical device manufacturing. It's all about sales. And so I really learned from this situation that negative events have a powerful and useful element to them. If you can be altruistic, like my manager was, and remove your emotional response from the situations. So what I wanted to learn was after that traumatic event, I realized that there must be opportunities to get the powerful and useful part without the pain of having these conflicts, these interpersonal conflicts between people. So how can we partner with our customers and colleagues without these blowups occurring? The answer is obvious because it's the topic of today's meeting. But John and Kelly had built a bridge between teams and continued to provide valuable information and feedback. So how do we get that partnership from all of our customers? How do we build more conduits between service and those whom we serve? And there are lots of ways. There's lots of feedback loops and channels that already exist. If you're not doing some of these are some really good ones you can use beyond surveys. The obvious ones that we're talking about today are transactional surveys. You might do annual surveys already. If you don't do these, I highly recommend adding opt-in surveys so that people can go to your self-service portal and just provide feedback without having to go through a transaction first. Brown bags is another one I've seen work really well, where people just bring their lunch to a unified location or they get invited. It's great to have a customer relationship kind of team thing going on with your employees and those you serve. One-on-ones, of course, this John situation is a perfect example where just having a powerful person meet with your support team could be very powerful. Then there's onboarding. Great spot to get feedback. Offboarding, kind of not really, might not want to do that too much, but there's regular trainings. Like if your IT department or your support staff does regular trainings, that's a great way to develop a relationship and get honest feedback from those you serve. And then also telemetry, patterns, sentiment analysis. Basically, we're in IT, right? So we've got a ton of tools at our disposal. So for now, let's focus on surveys. Surveys help us measure the intangible, the non-measurable human reactions. This is how we gather opinions and perceptions of the experiences we deliver every day. These measurements through analysis give us the opportunity to know our people better and adapt our services to their needs and expectations. I'm going to pause here for emphasis, because this is what we're here to understand, the value chain of surveys. If you aren't doing all three of these things, your surveys are likely failing. That's right. You're failing your customers, you're failing your teams, you're failing your organization. To send a survey, to use valuable time to collect data and not share it or not improve from it, you are literally creating negative return on investment. You've invested time and effort and done nothing with it. This is the most important point when you're conducting surveys and user research. Do not fall into the trap of vanity metrics, collecting metrics for metrics' sake. We've always had our CSAT score. We want to see where it's going. If you're not doing something with the results of those CSAT scores and you're just watching the numbers go up and down, it's probably just wasting more time than you actually have. And you're wasting your employees' time and your customers' time. By simply choosing not to send a survey, you can save money, you can save time and improve the experience simply by not sending that empty survey. It's a radical idea, I will admit. So let's go on. This is a good mantra for surveys, is to say these three things because it helps you remember the value chain. Measure and report in order to analyze and understand, in order to learn and change. So a lot of survey efforts, they do this and then they fall short of actually learning and changing. So at this point, it makes sense for us to break down some of those metrics that we're gathering via surveys. Prepare for me to beat up some of our favorite metrics. So let's start with customer satisfaction. I pick online recipes based on their ratings. I don't know if you do the same, but I usually look at the quantity of ratings and then the average. And that's kind of because that's what Google tells me. Like when I Google a recipe, that's what I get. But how much of a meal's value is derived from the recipe? I always see reviews, you've probably seen them too, where someone is giving a bad rating for something where they went off the recipe. There are so many factors to consider when it comes to cooking. What ingredients did you buy? What quality? You know, did someone filling out the review substitute onions for carrots? Did you follow the directions or did you modify some elements based on your experience? Who were you eating with? What did you discuss? If your significant other broke up with you during the meal, the likelihood of you giving that recipe a 5-star review is very much lower. Or you probably won't even fill out a review at all. What conditions are your tools in? You know, is your nonstick pan flaking the Teflon off? Are your knives sharp? Did you cut yourself? What atmosphere did you eat in? Did your house burn down while you were cooking? That one's a bit extreme. But all these elements and many more contribute to that rating. So what influences customer satisfaction rating in our service transactions? Is the employee actually happy in their role at the company? Did they miss a goal or bonus based on the service, like in my example earlier? Was there some loud construction while they were talking with the agent? Were they driving when they called? If you've ever been an agent, you know exactly how painful that is when someone has a computer problem and they can't even pick up the computer. What was their previous interaction like? Were they at home? Were they in a coffee shop? What was the Wi-Fi connection like? My point is that context really influences this score, and something as subjective as a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 makes it difficult to quantify and analyze this. And do employees actually care if they're satisfied with service? Maybe they value something else. Maybe they want it to be fast. Maybe they want to, be treated like a friend more. The subjective nature of, quote, being satisfied makes it nearly impossible to measure. And although the averages are nice, seeing the spread of stars is really important. And you see this on Amazon. You can't always trust the average. Sometimes you need to see that there are 1,000 1-star reviews and 1,000 5-star reviews. That really, in NPS terms, that's a zero-sum game. So taking a look at what the outliers in customer satisfaction is one place to look right away to improve your responses to that. Okay, we're going to go on to another one, effort score. This one always makes me chuckle a little bit because effort, usability, and efficacy, they're all best measured in a controlled user research study. This is an example of something that needs to kind of be built into the services themselves. How much effort went into communicating during the service? Were they able to use the tools they already like to use to communicate? Or did they have to use additional tools, logins? Were form details required? This is objective data that a lot of times IT already has access to and can leverage to improve upon before we ask the customer. So you probably already know this answer, or your agents do. So asking for an effort score can be perceived as both tone deaf and insensitive. If you can determine and recognize the effort your customers are already putting forth, you're demonstrating empathy toward the user. I call this systemic empathy, or systems with empathetic experiences. Instead, measure this with analytics, interaction counts. Make sure your customers actually value this before you measure it too. Maybe they're willing to put in the effort to deal with their issues. The Holy Grail, NPS. Net Promoter is always an awkward question when it comes to service desks. And if you've written this into your surveys for your service desk, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why would an employee recommend a service desk to another employee? Do they even have a choice? Your employees will give each other an accurate reference of your service. So asking them for it won't help you. They're already talking about you behind your back. Also, let's talk about the calculation of NPS, because this is widely misunderstood in IT support specifically. In NPS, if someone rates you a 1 through 6, they're detractors. If they rate you a 7 to 8, they're neutral. And if they rate you a 9 to 10, they're considered promoters. Then the calculation is the percentage of promoters subtracting the percentage of detractors. So the scale for NPS is actually negative 100% to 100%. So if everyone's giving you a 1 through 6, you can have a negative 100%. And if half of your people are giving you a 1 through 6 and half of your people are giving you a 9 or a 10, you're going to meet right in the middle at 0%. And none of this makes sense for anything, really. This is the reason I always beat up on NPS. We're ignoring 7 and 8. We're considering them neutral. And why do that? They're so close to 9. They're so close to 10. Maybe a small improvement effort could get them to be 10s. And also consider with this measurement that taking someone from a 1 to a 6 is still considered failure. You've improved service 600%, and they're still saying that this is a failure. Okay, I'm getting too worked up. We'll move on from NPS. QStack is the new kid on the block. You've probably seen this, and I have nothing against any of these metrics, really. If you need to gather them, gather them. But this one just has many more problems because there's more measures. It's got as many issues as the other metrics. So first, what is quality? What does the end user perceive as quality? And how will a 10-point scale actually communicate quality? So it's subjective again. Speed. As I mentioned before, this is something you should already know. You have the data, or it's really close by. You just need to collect it. Is the customer a good judge of your staff's technical knowledge? Why or why not? Why are they a good judge of their technical knowledge? I'm not sure that we want users providing this feedback. This is probably something that we could gather through some other means. Approachability, however, I will admit, has a ton of merit. Understanding how willing users are to reach out to your service desk is highly useful. So that one kind of makes sense. And communication, first, it's another thing that we should have a record of. And secondly, it's so subjective. You might never be able to improve upon this because some people might want to communicate with your team over Facebook, or maybe they want a less professional communication style. This is a losing battle for service providers, and it's really only something that can be honed with soft skills training and a deep understanding of users. So hopefully you've got good agents. Hopefully they've gone through some HDI training, because that's the kind of topics that go into our trainings. Lastly, how do you even show Q-Stack? Is it averaged? Is it a dashboard? And what are you going to do to improve these numbers? The complexity and the additional elements in it make it even harder to improve upon. So all this punching on metrics is really to help us consider the content and purpose of our surveys. Who finds value in the results? Who do they serve? We must truly consider their value to improve the experience. Let's reverse engineer this. What are the decisions we're going to make based on the metrics that we gather? So here are some of them. Remember that we're here to measure and report in order to analyze and understand, in order to learn and change. So this is the learn and change bit. These are some of the categories that you probably are looking to change when you're sending out surveys. You might have other targets or goals that don't fit into these categories, but that's totally fine. The point is that surveys and measurement towards your goals need to be reverse engineered in order to be authentic and have meaning. If someone gives you input and you aren't planning to take action, why are you asking? Perfect example, if I don't have time to go for a walk, I don't tell my dog that I'm going for a walk, because he will follow me around the house, tripping me until we go. And I don't ask my kids if they want ice cream, because I better be prepared to go get some if I ask. It's obvious. The answers are obvious. They want it. So in these categories, strategy, that's the big one. You're looking for big inputs here. Things like technology requirements, demands that people are making on your team, projects. Sometimes if your analysis has a ton of feedback on one topic, this is kind of the place where you're targeting those efforts. This is the stuff that goes up the chain. You're saying to your director, hey, 90% of our research says people want such and such. Let's figure out a way to get that to them. Communications, detailed change. It's one where personalization is the name of the game. Getting agents to adjust communication styles, like I said earlier, honing the number of emails that you send and the content on your pages, like your self-service page or your SharePoint page. Those are the big opportunities here. Process is usually where negative feedback shines, as this is usually where expectations are missed in service and support. Procedures, those are kind of like the multi-step tasks like request fulfillment, complex incidents, communicating long-term problems. Those are key inputs to look out for here. And then the last one, technology, usually not a problem to get input on. People have opinions. The challenge in this category is actually sifting through the many, many complaints and suggestions to look for key insights. But my point is that these are where we're headed. So once we know what we need to learn and change and where we might be making those changes, the next reverse engineering step is to look at understanding. That's right. Even though many of us know that understanding people is completely impossible, it's what we're attempting to do. It's what we're doing with surveys. It's the goal of sending a survey. This might mean understanding groups of people or teams or departments. Regardless, this is a really good reason why surveys work. They help us scale the collection of data in an attempt to analyze and understand people or groups of people. What we need to watch out for is false data. You see, people don't even understand themselves very well. Yeah, I'm sure you know this. If Apple asked people what product they wanted before the iPod came out, it would have never been invented. The iPod was the culmination of user research, testing in laboratories, testing in controlled user studies, asking open-ended questions and analyzing the results. The product teams then take those results and synthesize different solutions to what people are looking for. And through that repetitive process, eventually they come up with a product. Service design is very similar. If you can take your survey feedback, understand and try different things, eventually you're going to come up with something great, a great product or service. So in Apple's case, eventually the research pointed to the product team saying, hey, people want a digital music device that fits in their pocket and can have headphones attached to it. And many years later, they will remove the ability to attach headphones to it. But that might have been a shareholder research instead of user research. I'll give you another example. Do you love your mother? I know this is a very personal question, but I put it there for shock value. You replace that with whatever you want, your car, your pets. Do you love anything? My point is, can you prove it? What are the data points that you can give me that will prove that you love it or them? What's the metric? And when did you start loving them? The truth is that our feelings are impacted by tiny, small interactions over a long period of time. The tiniest of details in a service transaction can mean the difference between getting ranked a 5 or a 10. Agent empathy, sincerity, and tone of voice might be more important to some of your customers than others. And until you can give agents that data, until you have that data, user communication preference, you may need to trust judgment and give agents wiggle room, soft skills training, and make sure they're aware of the importance of this. Furthermore, keep in mind that ratings and perceptions are consistent over the lifespan of the employee, meaning it can take a while for someone who is biased to rate a 10 level service a 10. If they've been rating you 5 their whole career for 10 years, it's going to be really hard to get them to go up to a 6 or an 8. All we can do is collect that data that makes sense for us to use and analyze it for insights. So, how do we analyze? Remember, we need to measure and report in order to analyze and understand, in order to learn and change. So how do we turn data into insights? We must make the time to analyze the data and do it with as many people and in as many ways as we can afford. This is where experience in human-centered design projects really becomes extremely valuable. Not only does reviewing data as a group develop more insights and perspectives, it also aligns teams so that you don't have to convince other stakeholders to change the various aspects of service. If we all see that same data, if we all see that same research and analyze it together and review it together, the insights that we come up with as a group are going to be very, very clear. There's no persuasion required because we all came to those same conclusions. I'll admit this takes practice. So if you don't have experience, get ready to fail a couple of times doing these analysis activities. They are sometimes some very difficult conversations to have. There are sometimes a lot of people that don't want to take the time to pour through user research, but there are some tactics that you can use to get through large data sets. Like one workshop that I've run in the past is a research wall. Very simple way to take large data sets and large research or survey responses, break out into small groups. If you've got 20 people, break them up into 4 groups of 5, split up the research and the survey responses into those groups, have everyone review them, put insights out on Post-its, whatever they are, whatever you're using for data. Maybe it's digital, you're running it on Jamboard, Google Jam, or Miro maybe. But the idea is that those groups can analyze these subsets of data, then everyone comes back and you're going to present those insights back as a larger group. Maybe each group has the top 10. Maybe they've got different colors, like pink is going to stand out, like that's your number one insight. So you give them one pink Post-it and they get to decide at the end, okay, this is the one that's really important. My point is that it's really, you're quickly able to then visualize opportunities and gaps with that data. Another one is to be able to map it, journey mapping. Partnering with key stakeholders and mapping out experiences that you're providing. And once you have that map, you can place feedback from surveys at the appropriate point in the experience. You'll be surprised what that visual can do for teams. They start to, hear the customer, so to speak, when they're designing and delivering those services. Finally, go through content and research as a team. Even just reading a few before team meetings or during meetings can start to connect people to information and let teams reflect and speak about feedback. You want to be selective about which insights you share, keeping in mind how it may affect your team's mood, but keep people involved. That's the goal, because it'll help. This kind of practice keeps our understanding of people close by and gives us a framework to talk and absorb and act on that feedback in our projects and in our daily transactions. Imagine the power of agents being able to adjust their behavior because they have heard the feedback directly. They can reference it. They can actually reference it to each other in their daily conversations and on future tickets. So I've got a couple slides to just kind of show some of these. I'll admit this one's the Google. So if you Google research wall, this is what you're going to see. It's one of the top ones. But basically, this is what a research wall will look like. In this case, it looks like they're doing some personas. They've got maybe some print offs of individual pages there, and people are sticking them up on the wall based on where they're at in the experience. But this is a good example because, really quickly, you can see how giving the team one pink Post-it, it's really easy to see where those pink insights are. So just go through this, have some practice. Here's one that is mine. This one isn't Googleable because it's a client project of mine from, I think it was 2021, which is last year, Matt. But this is a service blueprint. It's not actually a journey map. It's kind of like a fancy journey map. And on it, you can see feedback and quotes on the map itself. So like, here's a quote. I wish someone was available to just answer questions. And this was an onboarding project, as you can see. But similarly, you want to put those on there so that people can, visualize them and see it while they're working on these. I've seen teams eliminate multiple surveys actually doing this, where they didn't realize that HR was sending an onboarding survey and facilities was sending an onboarding survey, and IT wanted to know, did you get everything that you wanted? And that's a huge deal too, right? Just being able to visualize your services, you can eliminate some of those obvious opportunities. It also helps that we had all the teams together. So that's not to be passed over quickly, but getting all the stakeholders to work together, it's key. This map is a visual aid. It helps service providers understand the experience we put people through. And we must try to avoid the survey paradox, whereby adding a survey negatively impacts the experience, right? If we're asking, how is your experience today, 1 to 10, and they dock a point because we asked them a survey, we should have never asked to begin with. We would have gotten a 10. So this all might seem a little bit esoteric. If I've completely destroyed surveys for you, I've done my job perfectly, but just know that I'm not actually totally against surveys. In the next portion of the presentation, I'm going to go over the actual tips and tricks and tools to conduct useful, highly valued surveys that not only keep people happy, but keep them responding. Man, I really love beating up on metrics though. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid survey fatigue. We want to send the minimum number of surveys possible to achieve our goal. So only send as many surveys as you can take action on. This might mean doing surveys manually or, in another system, or actually picking up the phone to do surveys. But in the interest of making actual change, you might want to do that anyway. Let's say, for instance, that you get 100% response rate. And each survey has a valuable insight that requires you to change something. Do you want 1,000 of those? Won't that take you years to act upon? And It's possible that you're sending a survey after every incident, every request, every ticket. What is your response rate when you do that? Consider adjusting to that percentage. So if you're sending it out all the time and you're getting, say, 5% back, 10% back, why not send 10%? You might improve the experience first and foremost, but you might actually get more responses too. Like, hey, I need to respond to this survey because I don't get these all the time anymore. You know, if money is everywhere, money is invaluable. It doesn't have any value. But if someone sees a $100 bill on the sidewalk and they haven't for a few years, they're going to pick it up. They're going to take that opportunity. So this might be the appetite and threshold that your audience wants and can withstand to engage with your surveys. You want to know that level. Understand the context of your target and adjust your timing. Sending surveys right after something breaks is a bad idea. Give it a day or two or a week. Try different delays to see how your responses change. This is definitely key in incident management and case management, change management. Request is a little bit different because a lot of times they're getting something. I don't know about you, but I get an endorphin rush every time that Amazon package lands on the porch. You also want to leverage context clues. If I'm an executive and I just spent 14 hours without a computer, do not send me a survey. If it took 22 emails to get my cell phone service working, don't ask me how much effort it took. Those surveys are not only a waste of time, but they reduce confidence in perceived value participating in the survey. You want to collect data as part of the experience. Instead of emailing your end users, collect their review upon closure or before the agent hangs up the phone. Imagine an agent is ready to be done with a customer and they say, give us a rating 1 to 10 on our service today. And they type that into the ticket. This keeps it a lot more lightweight. It makes it easier to participate. It's possible also that your agents actually know what the rating would be. So you might want to leverage that as well. We'll get into some more radical ideas later. So the best way to get insights to act upon is to not send a survey. I'll say that again. The best way to get insights to act upon is to not send a survey. If a user told us how the ticket made them feel and offered that information without prompting, then there is literally no need for a survey. Right? They might actually have it in the ticket. I don't want this service to be delivered this way. So you might want to start with telemetry. You might want to start with the archaeology of looking through tickets to understand what they're already requesting. What do you already know about their experience? Can you determine sentiment from call recordings? I mean, we've got technology that does this stuff now, so we may not actually need to even ask. And like I said, agents might know this too. So why not ask the agents? Next, if you don't know how a ticket went, make sure you follow the timing advice from the last slide and make it super simple to respond. 1 click, happy, sad. 1 click, 1 to 10. This will give you a quick barometer reading like that and determine if follow-up is needed or further diagnosis is required. Maybe you just want to have a conversation. Maybe an IM or a quick email to them will prove super useful and insightful. That's the beauty of these surveys, is if you can actually just use them as a flag. Hey, I should reach out to this person. If you're in a high volume call center and need more than that, I highly recommend asking for a survey. No amount of questions is going to get you the insight you need. If you have 5 1 to 10 questions, that's not going to tell you the story. And it'll probably frustrate the user to not be able to communicate their story. Give us a 1 to 10, and if you've got a story, fill it in on this form. Or better yet, give me a call directly. Finally, make sure that all your survey content is about things the surveyee cares about. If they don't care, they'll have no way of telling you. For example, if the response time was slow, but I was busy, I don't care that it's slow. This is why a general rating seems to work best. How would you rate our service today? It's essentially the same question as how would you rate agent name? Knowing what's important helps you write better surveys. WIFM. It wouldn't be a good HDI presentation without a WIFM. We need to measure and report in order to analyze and understand, in order to learn and change. Letting the target know what's going to happen if they fill out a survey is going to improve responses tenfold. Telling employees that their tools improve with every survey response lets them know that you care and what you're going to do with the data. And it's even better if you show them. The unasked questions your customers think when you send a survey is, what is this going to do? How long will it take? If I take 3 minutes to fill this out, will it be worth my time? If I take 3 minutes to fill this out, am I going to get another one tomorrow? Do you use this for service improvement? That's what they want to know. Do you use this to improve services? Do you use this to reward agents? That's always a question that's in the back of their mind. If they give a bad rating, does the employee get dinged? If I give a good rating, does the employee get a benefit? It's important to let them know what's going to happen based on their response. So instead of hiding this information, share it. Not only will you get more responses, you'll get better responses for the changes you plan to make with the results. You see, reverse engineering actually has a purpose here. If we tell them what we're going to change, they're going to give us feedback based on what we're changing, and then we're able to change it better and partner with them. Much like that John situation I talked about at the beginning. It really is like you're in a conversation, you're in the manager's office, and you're actually saying, we want to improve this. Give us a rating on it. So always keep WIFM in the survey content itself. What's in it for me? Always include it. Finally, it's time for some crazy ideas on this topic. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably have been waiting this whole time just to hear this, because a lot of this stuff comes out of left field, but it's always interesting to just think about, I believe. So surveying agents, how many customer surveys do you send out? Have you ever surveyed your agents? How do they feel about the service they provided? What's their review of how the customer treated them? Consider the value of pairing what the agent's survey response is and what the customer's response is. This is going to highlight agent perception misses. If the customer is giving it a 1 and the agent gives it a 10, clearly there's some great training opportunities there. Another one would be to pre-survey with your agents. Have them predict how the customer is going to respond to the survey that you send. That's another great way for them to learn and adapt their perceptions to meet what the customer or the employee actually is thinking. Put survey results on the tickets. This is not radical, actually, but it's definitely useful for archaeology efforts. And if your tool doesn't provide the ability to show that survey result directly on the ticket, it's a missed opportunity, because your agents are going and looking at those tickets. They can't help themselves. We're nerds. We're going to pick apart the tickets. Try to understand, another radical idea is to try to understand what an abandoned survey means. Track to see who's loading the survey, but never responding, and reach out to them. Because sometimes this is an indication of something much worse, or a completely terrible experience that they can't even document in a professional setting. Lastly, another not really radical idea, but very important: never design a survey by committee. It will not deliver clear results. It will have too many questions. I'm sure you've seen the surveys where they're multi-pages. That might work in an annual survey situation, or somewhere where they're totally invested in improving the service or the product. But it's likely that survey was designed by committee. they usually lack a cohesive feeling. They usually are really long to fill out. And that usually is going to hurt your survey response numbers. So in short, don't send surveys till you have done the research. You may not even need one. Focus on what's going to change based on the result. Leaders, this is your opportunity to walk up the chain of command and question those metrics that aren't serving your teams and employees. Take the time to review the research together. Don't just keep the evidence sealed in a storage closet. Share it, use it. Research is power. Research is leverage. Finally, understand the impact of surveys on the experience itself. Many simple transactions are made worse with spammy emails. Look for opportunities to capture your metrics and other data within the experience. Finally, thank you for your time and attention today. Please do put in some questions, some feedback. Go on mute. I want to hear what you think. Instead of sending a survey after this presentation, I want to hear, what did you think? What questions do you have?
Not a question, but a statement. Being an old sociology grad student whose first survey with undergrads, when you do a survey, don't be in the same room, because you see kids making a pattern when they're filling things out or crumpling it up and throwing it away. But what gets to me sometimes is when you have people who you're trying to use the data incorrectly, like it's ordinal, so there's an order to the rankings and things like that. But people try and use means, and they say, well, our average survey is a 4.3 or something like that, and it needs to be analyzed differently.
Love it. Thanks, Jim. That's cool to know that you were studying people back in college.
Yeah, you can see what it got me.
Same. I wonder how many of us who landed in tech came from sociology. I think the thing that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I guess the only other thing is, again, with talking with leadership, now I'm in a very small company now. I'm IT, God help them. But with trying to talk to leadership, I've seen where surveys were simply used as, well, did our analysts do the right job? And, you know, the survey covered the entire service from calling the help desk to being transferred to second level and maybe on to another group. But our analyst was the one that's tagged with that survey. And so as a manager, you had to sort through that and then try and go back to senior management to say, look, either we need a specific survey for us or just look at the service we were providing. You know, and again, like, you know, what are we looking to measure and how to measure it instead of trying to look at the entire voyage.
Love it. That's a great point, Jim. You can bet I'm going to add this into the presentation. Kathy, what you got?
I have so many thoughts. First, I want to thank you, Matt. This is a fantastic presentation, near and dear to my heart. Yeah, I think firstly on this call, I think it depends if we're providing internal IT support or if we're providing external support to customers that are using our software. There's a huge difference. Secondly, I think we have to know our purpose, because even internally, if you're like a university versus internal IT to employees, is going to make a huge difference. But I do think, regardless of all that, I think we're all headed towards this journey of the word experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're even starting to see XLA instead of SLA, which is like the whole LinkedIn hoo-ha back and forth right now. But I think we can't stay away from it. So I think where you were going, and that's why I think I'm starting to fade. Well, I don't know, me personally, I'm all about feelings anyway, because from the minute we wake up till the minute we go to sleep, we are feeling. We can't turn it off. So whether we're providing service or whether we're receiving service, we are feeling. And by the way, for the Arby's thing, people, don't knock it, because I worked at Arby's when I was in high school. But bring back those darn potato cakes. Anyway, speaking of where I learned my service. And so, yeah, that's why I think I kind of go towards the Q-Stack stuff, because it makes more sense to me. And I studied consumer behavior in college. Yeah, and so I go to all of that stuff, and that's where I get more into the whole experience thing. And if you're providing external experience and you're looking for customer loyalty, that experience is where that's going to tie into the customer loyalty thing. Because it really gets down to the basics. I wish people would quit posting on LinkedIn and start doing it. What it is this one human being talking to another human being, or texting, or whatever we're doing, or build it into the AI, because the AI has to have a relationship. I don't care if it's a human or it's a machine, is a relationship to relationship with a service. And when that's happening, there's emotions. People are feeling. Whoever, the person receiving the service is having an emotional experience. Okay. And we have to measure that, because at the end of the day, it's the emotional takeaway. This is okay. And I'm sorry, I have to way reel back and say, this is my own personal perception. And I'm getting on the whole thing. When you said you get all worked up about stuff, I'm starting to get worked up, and I'm just going to stop right there. But I wanted to say thank you so much, Matt. This was awesome.
I love that. That was a good way of putting it. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go back to bed, we are just feeling, and sometimes in our dreams, we're feeling, and it's real. Yeah. And that forms the perception of reality. I love it.
And that's just it. It forms the perception of exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, I loved the part where you mentioned the negative sentiment in our survey results leads to the process improvement opportunities. I think often we're looking for happy, positive results. And I think it's super important to identify, what do we do with these different results? What are we expecting? What are we surprised by? Why are we surprised? And I love what you said about the negative comments around process will lead to our opportunities to make investments or make just subtle changes that we may be too close to realize what's going on.
Love it. Good point. You know, we always see those negative responses as like, oh, it's a personal attack on me as a professional. And yeah, we really should see it as an opportunity. I think that's kind of where DevOps really owns a lot of that. You know, you've heard it, fail fast. This is kind of like the support and service version of failing fast. You know, if you get that negative result, you know, you shouldn't really be dinging people on it. You should be improving service on it.
I know that I have a negative bias towards password resets just because I hate passwords myself. I mean, can't you just do a retina scan? It's 2022, come on. But I've actually encountered a client that they got revenue based on the number of password resets that they completed. And I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I'm like, well, now by solving this, we're going to, you know, improving the experience, we're actually threatening the revenue. So got to get back to the drawing board there. But yeah, sometimes it's counterintuitive.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to add something in about that too. That paradox, the service provider paradox. We see it in knowledge management all the time, where if I'm an outsourced IT shop, why would I create knowledge articles? It's just going to mean less incidents, and I get paid per incident. So I love that. It's a good point to bring up, Jason.
Oh,
hey, Matt, this is Donald. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I'll go. Ladies first, right? So in my organization, we do what we call a close the loop process, and we reach out on any negative surveys that we get, because there's only so much space for them to leave their colorful commentary, I will say, at times. So we reach out and invite folks to have a call with us. And I'm actually surprised by how many people do want to talk to me on the phone. And that, I feel like, is where the magic happens, right? Because that's where we really uncover like everything that's wrong. And a lot of times it's process related. And, you know, and maybe their response to this one particular survey that went out for this one call they had with one of my engineers, it's really pent up frustration from a sales process. And, and then it's an opportunity for me to connect that customer with their client success person, and then they can get additional training, and it's really turned into kind of this really amazing thing. And I always think of metrics as like it's just one part of the puzzle, it's just one piece of the story. And so any sort of a survey result, it's just one piece, right? But when I can really get in and have those conversations and kind of fill in a lot of the gaps, that's when I get the best experiences. And I will tell you, I don't want us to get negative surveys, but every time I get a Slack notification of a negative survey, I'm like excited. I'm hopeful that the person wants to talk to me, because they're my favorite conversations.
Yeah, I love that. Good points. Adjacent processes are going to have spillover into your surveys. And then I love the point that you meet with them face to face. That's something I want to include too, because so often our support and IT processes are faceless. They're not human at all. And as soon as they see, oh, it's Beth is providing the support, how could I be mean to Beth? So I love that. Good point.
And I will say it does have a face. So it's all, these are all external customers, working with our software, but I send them a Zoom link and I turn my camera on, which really invites them. Sometimes they'll turn theirs on, sometimes they won't, but it's my favorite because these are global customers too, right? And it just turns into like, we create the relationship. So yeah, highly recommend.
How soon do you meet with them after, let's say, a closed incident or closed issue?
So I get a Slack alert triggered as soon as that survey comes through, and I will send them an email within 24 hours. I usually do it right away because, again, like I love these conversations. So I'll send them an email right away. We have our email template for that. So it's really easy for me to send it off. And then we usually schedule a call within a week of that email going out.
You are a glutton for punishment, aren't you, Beth? Right away.
It's so fun. I'm like, yes, let's do this, because people just want to be heard, right? Like people just want to be heard. And
yeah.
I've never encountered someone on any of those calls where we haven't left the call, like everybody just feeling good about what we do next and where we go from here. So. Yeah.
Sorry to continue with this line of questioning. Once you have that conversation with that customer, how much are you buffering and or absorbing before you reach back out to the analyst or the engineer that had, originally worked that issue?
So I reach out to the analyst immediately and I say, hey, I just got this survey. Can you tell me what happened? Because I do that. So I'm collecting information from them while I send the email out. So then I get the, kind of information coming from both sides so I can hear what happened. Also, before I get on an actual follow-up call, I will listen into the call, right? So, or I'll read the chat transcript. So I can really get a full sense of how they were feeling, like the emotion that was coming through. I can read through chat transcripts to see like, was our tone off, that type of thing. So yeah. And then after the call, I circle back to my engineer and I just let them know, how the conversation went. A lot of times I have to get some other folks involved too from other areas, because again, a lot of it's process related. And we've had some really good process improvements that have come out of doing these follow-ups.
Chewy.
That's great. Thank you.
Chewy.
Yes.
What were you going to say?
Oh, sorry. I was just kind of on the same one. What I was going to start with is that one of the things I really liked was also getting the agent's perception of the call. So surveying them as well. I like the fact that there are some times where you're going to see a huge contrast, and that's where it's going to open up conversations for education, some more training and development, that type of thing. But I really like what Beth is doing in her area. I mean, it's something that we haven't done. But yeah, that really, like she calls it, closes the loop. I mean, it gets everybody involved, and you're really doing that recovery service and making improvements where it needs to be so it doesn't happen again. So I love those points.
Good stuff. Good participation. Thank you all for being here and providing your voice. I really, really appreciate it. It's so much fun to talk about this stuff. God, I'm a nerd. I love it.
You are a nerd. Thanks again, Matt. I appreciate it. So we keep on track with time. ASPG has joined the call. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I made you guys a co-presenter. They're going to give you the pitch. At the end of it, I believe they're going to give instructions as to how you would enter into the $50 drawing. So ASPG, are you on? I was told Hayden is going to be on presenting for ASPG.
Switched over here.
We can hear you.
Okay, great.
All right, we can see your slide
Okay.
deck. You have the floor.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello to everybody. We are very excited to be a part of the Minnesota HDI meeting. So thank you all for letting us join. My name is Lisa Hamilton, and I am joined here with Hayden and Dan, who are both part of the ASPG technical support team. We are going to be presenting a few of our products that we offer in the areas of access management. To keep within the time slot of our presentation is actually going to be extremely high level. And if you find that something piques your interest and you'd like to see a full demo, just let us know. Okay, so moving forward with the raffle, here's how we're going to do it. For anyone who wants to participate in the raffle for the $50 Amazon gift card, send us your name and company name to the chat box, and Dan is going to place your name on our spin to win raffle wheel. And then at the end, which is in just about 7 or 8 minutes, we're going to pick the winner. Does that sound good? All right.
Yep.
Okay. So while he's working on that, I'll get started. For those of you who are not familiar with ASPG, we were established in 1986. We are headquartered in Naples, Florida. We're an international company with representation in over 30 different countries. We have software in the areas that you see before you, not just for distributed, but also for the mainframe platforms. ASPG is an IBM business partner. We do attend all of their disclosure meetings, which allow us to keep our products ahead of the curve. And we're also a Microsoft business partner, which gives us the opportunity to have our products like React, our password reset tool, certified annually by them. And then, of course, we have lots of other alliances and partnerships as well. Okay. So today we're just going to briefly cover in a couple of slides the different products that we have available. We're not going to focus on just one. This is kind of like an introduction. So we have React, which is our enterprise password reset and synchronization tool. This product will support all of your systems and applications on the network, all through one product, one portal. The OR product is very popular because it is a companion tool to React that provides offline access recovery for our remote users. We also have Megacryption PC, which is falls under the umbrella of access management in a different way. It is a comprehensive data encryption solution which encrypts Windows data on your network, your USB, wherever you store sensitive data. And then last but not least, we have ProAct, which is something we're very excited about, and we're just getting ready to launch it. It is our new user management, user provisioning, and reporting solution. So much like it says, it's going to give a wide range of administrator tools so companies can define access requirements about your users across all the systems. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Hayden. Again, he is one of our lead technical support specialists. He's going to just give a high-level overview on these tools and then turn it back over for the raffle. Hayden?
Thank you. Okay, so we'll jump right in with React. It truly is an enterprise password reset and synchronization solution. So with that, we do mean that we tie into basically every application that's possible in your enterprise. So it's a one-stop location to reset your passwords. The ultimate goal, obviously, is to eliminate calls to the help desk for resets and unlocks. And typically, we do see numbers deep into the 90% range for reducing those calls by the time it's all deployed in your environment. We support fully customized branding and design. So by the time it's all said and done and in your environment, oftentimes it follows your color scheme. ASPG and React are not mentioned anywhere. The verbiage in the tool is completely familiar to the users. And you can customize the appearance of what options they have available to them. Some sites prefer just to go with like a password reset and account unlock, just two options. Along with that, we also do custom system integrations as well. So if you're looking for an application to be supported that's not already built into the tool, we're more than happy to integrate directly to it for password resets, as long as it has some way for us to communicate, whether it's a password or an API, a web service, a database, something along those lines. A lot of our clients do refer to the tool as set it and forget it, because typically once we have it configured and we have it deployed in the environment and the scope is defined and it's how we want it to be working, the only time you ever have to really touch it is to go apply the new key annually. And then, of course, we have 24/7/365 US-based technical support for all of our tools, as Lisa mentioned earlier. And with this, that includes stuff like free installation, custom scripting, and implementation. We can be as hands-on or hands-off as you want with the tool. If you prefer to do the bulk of the work, you can. If you want to schedule it through us and have us walk you through it, we're more than happy to do that as well. As far as the functionality of the tool goes, we do have a full audit trail and reporting for the tool. So everything that occurs within the tool is recorded. That's from an admin level, a system level, and a user level. We have very granular security controls. So besides just what your users can do, breaking them up into groups and what passwords they can reset and what rules they have to follow, you can also do that for who accesses the tool. So you can make sure certain administrators only have access to certain features within the tool, certain portals, and they can only assist certain users. This is typically good in multi-tenant sites. So you can make sure, say, a manager of the HR department can only assist HR users if they need to call in. Or if it's an umbrella company with multiple sub-companies, the same idea. So it's beneficial in that way. Out of the box, we offer 25 different combinations of authentication, and those can be single or multi-factor authentications. But if you do have a type of authentication that you're already using in-house that's not in the tool, we can put it in the tool for you, as long as there's some way for us to communicate to it once again, whether that's an API or web service or database. But these are single factor or they can be multi-factor. We already work with like Duo and Okta and things of that nature out of the box, so that's nice. And then of course, comprehensive password complexities. So we have very granular control over what password complexities we're enforcing to the users, and they get a nice GUI there when they go to reset their passwords that lights up with green check marks as they meet the requirements. And if they don't meet the requirements, it specifically tells them what is wrong with their password. And if you don't meet your password complexities with the stuff that we have out of the box, we can very easily add in custom rules. Moving forward, we have a scripted processes GUI, so you can have a nice user interface to manage all the scripted processes. We modernized the self-service portal in the next release. We brought it up to date and put it on a bootstrap framework, and it's just a lot easier to work with and customize. Custom workflows, you can go ahead and choose the order of operations that your users step through the tool. And then we have help desk validation. So if a user calls into the help desk and you need to verify who's on the other end of the line, you can do so. So before you discuss, say, sensitive information or something like that, but you don't necessarily have to, reset their password or unlock their account to know who they are. And then we've also, we are having a React MFA come out. So we are moving into the multi-factor authentication realm, and we are making our own authenticator. So it'll be along the lines of Duo or Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. That'll be packaged in the tool. And then, of course, a full Proact integration. A facet of the React tool that's an add-on tool is OR. So OR is a tokenized approach to allow a user to get into a device while they're off the domain. The way that I like to think about it is I'm sitting in an airport, I'm off domain, and I have a company-issued laptop, my password expires or I forget my password, and now I can't do anything. Because if I were to call the help desk and they were to reset my password, that's fine, but it's on the domain and it's not going to push down to my local cache credentials on the machine. This grants one-time access into the device for you to be able to gain access to the network and then reset your password. And then once you VPN in, it will push down the cache credentials. Another thing about it is that it can also be used to facilitate profile-specific maintenance. From our clients, we've actually heard some stories where they'll actually facilitate this by dropping off a laptop with a sticky note and a username and a password on it. This allows you to go ahead and do so without ever having to compromise the user's password or have them reset the password. You can just log in as the user, perform the profile-specific maintenance, and move on. Now, we also have Mega Encryption PC. This is a Windows cryptographic toolkit, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of different methods for encrypting and decrypting on Windows for your users. What's really great about it is that there is no user training really whatsoever. It's just once it's installed to the machine, it's an option the user has when they right-click on a file. They can sit there and encrypt, decrypt, verify, sign, examine, hash the file. It's just really simple and intuitive for the user. And so really you can do one or many files at once with this functionality. Some other things that they have built in within the tool is an automatic encryption monitor. It's called the folder monitor, but what it does is once you set this up to monitor this folder, what winds up happening is anytime you push a file into that folder, it automatically encrypts it with whatever encryption you've selected for it. And then we have advanced key management. So to manage all your keys in one location, you can do that through this tool on Windows. And what happens is you have a nice list there, and you can click on the keys and see the different things about them and perform different actions very straightforward. And then we have our final portion, which we're going to talk about, which is Proact. This is user provisioning and reporting. So what we're doing here is we have created a centralized identity management for the entire enterprise. And what this will allow you to do is basically automate the onboarding and offboarding of users, also, the life cycles. This allows you to use pre-built templates that we can provide or custom templates, depending on what your needs are, to generate users. So the idea is that instead of having to go out to each individual system and create an account for new users, you would go ahead and have a template built. And when a new user comes on, you simply just create the bulk of these accounts through one location instead from a template basis. And you can have as many of those as you see fit for your company. The good thing about the templates, though, is they also allow bulk user creation. So if you have a lot of users coming in that are going to have the same systems and same accounts and things like that, you can do that all through one action. And then beyond that, you can also have in-depth auditing and reporting on user activity across all the available systems. So what we're tied into, we can tell you what the users are doing, when they're doing it, and where they're doing it from. And another facet of it too, as I mentioned, is the offboarding. So automated deletion of project-based or contracted users. So it keeps your systems and environments clean as far as the accounts go. You don't sit, if a contractor leaves, you don't have to go out to 6 different systems and delete or decommission that account. This will handle it for you and just keep a very tidy environment. At this point, that's typically what I will cover with this, and I will turn it back over to Lisa.
All righty then. Thank you, Hayden. All right. So if anyone is interested in more information or taking a closer look at any of the products, just let us know. Our contact information will be at the end. And now for some fun stuff. Okay, has everyone who has wanted to participate in the raffle submitted their name via chat? And can we see the chat real quick? All right. All right. All right. Mr. Garcia, may we have a spin to win winner?
Drum roll.
Get here and share the screen shortly. 1 second here. Share screen. Really good odds.
50-50 chance.
Sweet.
All right.
Come on, Kathy.
Very good.
Thank you to the unemployed girl.
You deserve it.
Thank you very much.
ASPG, I would
Absolutely.
imagine you're going to reach out to Kathy and then you guys can exchange communication, email or phone number, however you want to get that to her.
Okay, yeah, actually, that'll probably come from the marketing department, and they'll send it via email. It's an electronic gift card, and
Okay.
we do not have Kathy's email address. So Kathy, if you would email education@aspg.com or myself. Oh, you do have it?
You could also send it as a direct message to me.
Or a direct message. Okay, however you'd like to do that, and then we will take care of that right away.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go for it.
I saw you guys are GSA certified on the GSA list. Do you have plans to get JITC certified?
To get what certified?
JITC, JITC.
ITC.
I am not familiar with that.
Okay, that's another government one.
Okay,
Okay.
good information. We'll check
Okay.
into that. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Well, that brings us to time,
All right,
folks. Thanks for
everyone.
your time. ASPG, thank you very much for joining. And I think the presentation was good.
It
You know,
was.
I learned a
Thank
little
you.
bit too. So thank you very much. Matt, awesome presentation today. I really thank you for that. For the Minnesota local chapter board members that are on, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That brings us to a close.
Thanks, board
You
members.
guys have our contact information. Please use it. Get connected via the LinkedIn group. Other than that, look forward to meeting with you guys soon.